All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Health Transformation webinar. This is Cade Archibald speaking, and with me, we got the founder, original creator of East West Health, multi-book author, just an all-around decent guy. He's a great guy. We got Regan Archibald. So welcome, everybody.
Hey, good to have everyone on, and welcome the Instagram world, the Facebook world. Really happy to have you guys on today. Today we're going to be talking about some interesting things. One of the things we're going to be covering is willpower, and then based on your questions, we're going to jump into a little bit of fasting, and then we're going to jump into cold showers and some hormesis. So hopefully you guys are ready to rock this today. So Cade, what would you say? You can see I've got a slide here. It says modern day biohacking. And if you look at what biohacking is, what would you say is a good definition of biohacking, Cade?
Good definition of biohacking is, I look at hacking as like trying to find shortcuts or, the most efficient way to accomplish a goal.
Yep.
And so it's really looking at your biology and figuring out different ways you can, kind of hack the biology to get a maybe less effort with a greater result or outcome.
There you go. Yeah. And if you look at bio, it's like, it's the body, it's biology is what bio is. And so it's basically looking at ways that you can understand how your biology works and to hack through all of the complexity of it so that you get the best results in the least amount of time possible, which is also a definition of productivity. And so I think there's a lot that we're going to share today that can be ways that you can actually leverage your overall health, and leverage is where you get the result with the least amount of effort possible. And so, Cade, do you like to leverage your health?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know these are kind of terms that we use a lot to look at. Let's see, you want me to hit view there?
Yeah, I think then the people in the Instagram world aren't just hearing a ghost voice.
Okay, got it. I just hit it, so it should be coming up. But if you look at leverage, if you can leverage your health, we talk a lot about this. The leveraging your health. There he is. Awesome. Technology right there. But if you look at leveraging your health, it's the least amount of effort gets you the biggest result. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. So one of the big issues that I hear from my patients all the time is I don't have great willpower. Now I have the world's worst willpower, and willpower is this finite resource that does tend to run out very quickly over time. And so we want to share with you just some ways that you can circumvent this whole thing called willpower. And there's two keys that I found. Number one is just making one choice, and that one choice takes care of the 10,000 decisions. So just make a choice every day to do this one thing, and it's called time-restricted eating. The other choice you're going to make is every day we're all showering and we're hygienic. And so the second choice is finish your shower cold. And so if you can do those two things, this is one of the great ways you can circumvent willpower, and you can just make that one choice that's going to lead to massive leverage in your health. So let's dive into number one, which is fasting. Now, here's a study to get you excited about this, and it's a study that shows that fasting for 24 hours can regenerate your stem cells. And so we'll jump into this. So first of all, what they did, and this study is actually fairly new, is they took mice and they put these mice on the 24-hour fast. Now, Cade, you've done 24-hour fasts. I've done 24-hour fasts. I think probably everyone on this webinar has done some type of 24-hour fasting. Whether it's for health, religious reasons, spiritual reasons, you're trying to make a big decision, you want to really put your intention and energy in somebody who's out there in your life that needs some help. But here's what happens from more of a physiological or stem cell perspective. So first of all, these researchers, they fasted mice for 24 hours. And then they looked at the way that that fasting impacted the intestinal stem cells. And what they found is that in both young and old mice, these fasting augmented the intestinal stem cell function by boosting fat metabolism. So we're big into getting plenty of good, healthy fats in your diet. We went on this rampage from about 1960 to 2015, where it was like fat is bad, it's going to cause high cholesterol, and it's going to give you heart disease and all these things. We found out that that theory was just not true. And so now we're looking at it, and what we found in these mice, when you go in this fasting state, you'll actually metabolize fats as an energy source. And then, as Cade and I have talked about before, it's kind of like driving a car that's run on electrical energy versus gasoline. And when you're running a car on gasoline, it's going to sputter a little bit. It's got gears, so it's going to be shifting. Now, when you're on this fasting state, you're going to have this nice, even energy throughout the day. And it's an amazing thing. What they also found is that these mice are using fats for energy preserves. And what this does is it preserves the health of the stem cells in the intestines, which is important. And then the ability to break down and use fats for energy, it's impaired in older people. So as those of you who are getting up there, you're maybe in the 50s, 60s, you may be in your 70s, that's okay. But one of the most important things you can do to maintain this digestive health is fasting. So we recommend, yes, fasting, maybe once a month, take a full 24 hours and just go through a fast. It can be very important. Here's what these researchers at MIT found. They found that during fasting, the intestinal stem cells from both young mice and old animals switched from utilizing carbohydrates to using fat as a primary energy source, and that this metabolic switch is driving an improvement in cell function, so in stem cell function. So very, very critical to your overall health. Now, so hopefully you guys are taking some notes, and you're saying, okay, let me see if I can do this once a month. Even once every 3 months is totally fine, because when we dive into the time-restricted eating, you'll see how you can do this every single day. So what they also found is that acute fasting regimens have pro-longevity and regenerative effects in diverse species, and they may represent a dietary approach to enhance age stem cell activity in tissue. So they found, once again, stem cells may function better when burning fats for fuel, but lose the ability to metabolize fats efficiently as they age. So if you think about this, Cade, what are some ways that, what are some maybe supplements people can take to burn fats more efficiently?
Some different supplements. So you have ketones is a way to get some of those there and improved. Just burning fat. You can do different hormone supplements for your adrenals.
You getting the feedback from that?
Yeah, the feedback is bad. I'm going to see if I can mute on this end.
Okay. Yeah. So I could tell Cade went into a little, it's okay. So while he's working on the technology, we're trying to get this thing figured out. But yeah, if you look at this, one of the easiest ways you can start utilizing fats as an energy source is make sure you have plenty of bile in your digestion. So if you don't have a gallbladder, it's going to be an issue, because what your gallbladder does is it secretes bile into your small intestine, and that allows your small intestine to emulsify the fats. And then as you emulsify the fats, that's where you can get these fatty acids, and that's where your body can actually utilize these fatty acids. And so bile secretion, you need enzymes, all the proper enzymes. So this is where we recommend, get hydrated with apple cider vinegar, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, like a teaspoon in a glass of water, a teaspoon of cranberry, unsweetened cranberry juice, a teaspoon of lemon juice. All these things can be really critical for you to actually start getting your digestive systems working and in place. And so then what happens is there's this process called autophagy. And what autophagy does is it clears out the senescent cells. And so autophagy is so important, because if you actually start building up with all these senescent cells, and what a senescent cell is that's when a cell has fully expressed itself. There's a specific cell lineage and it doesn't replicate. So that cell is dead. And a senescent cell is one of the main contributors to aging. So if you want to age quick, you get lots of senescent cells in your body and you will age quick. There's actually a study where they took mice and injected senescent cells into the knee joints of these mice. And what they saw is these mice suddenly had these inflammatory markers show up, and the mice started to show and exhibit symptoms of pain, similar to those of arthritis in the knee. And then even under imaging, just a few short weeks after these senescent cells were placed in the knees of these young mice, the imaging showed that the knees of these mice looked like osteoarthritic mice who are elderly and old, who have had traumatic incidences on their knees. So senescence is important. You got to get these cells out, and fasting can be one of the quickest ways to do it. Here's where you can see the difference in the intestinal cells in these mice who were fasting versus the ones who weren't. And once again, this is from some MIT research, so very impressive. But you can see at the right, the mice that fasted for just 24 hours, that's all it was, they produce much more substantial intestinal organoids than the stem cells from mice who did not fast. And so powerful studies here. So one of the books that we recommend is you get the longevity diet, and this is where you can do a fast mimicking diet. And Dr. Walter Longo, he's one of the leading researchers on this. He's got some great TED Talks. He's Italian, so might be a little difficult to understand exactly what he's saying. But he's got this 5-day fast system called Prolon. And Prolon is great because it basically, you get the same benefits of fasting, the same benefits that these mice got in this 24-hour fast. You get that from just using this Prolon kit that he can provide you. So very interesting. The other thing we're going to talk about is the circadian code, and this is Dr. Sachin Panda. And the circadian code is very interesting because this is where you can actually look at how can I get the benefits of fasting every single day, and how can I just allow my body to heal on the circadian clock, which I think is it's something that I've studied in Chinese medicine, one of the most important things that you can do. So hack number one, if you want to get rid of this idea of willpower, well, instead of like, I'm not going to eat carbohydrates today, no desserts, nothing like that. Well, just say, look, I'm going to choose a date either once a month or once every 3 months, and I'm just going to go 24 hours and only drink water. I'm going to keep my body nice and hydrated, but I don't even have to think about anything because I'm not eating any food. That seems like a much easier plan than having willpower, where you've got to make sure that you're putting all the right things in your body and you're avoiding all the things you need to avoid. So that's going to be a big key component. So let's jump in and how can we apply this to everyday life? Well, I think the biggest thing is matching things up to the circadian code. And so let's talk about time restricted eating. So Cade, can you just give us kind of I don't know if it's fixed yet. If it is fixed, give us an overview of what time restricted eating is and what that looks like on a clock schedule.
Perfect. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Good. So with timed eating, you're looking at a certain amount of time during the day that you're actually going to be eating. And so for some people, that can be 12 hours. So you break your fast at 8, and you can eat normal meals within 12 hours. So you do not consume anything other than water after 8 p.m. And that's kind of how people can start. You'd be surprised at how much snacking goes on, how much additional eating that people will do after that 12-hour window. If you don't pay attention to it, I know I'm like the worst. They go in the pantry and just start snacking on things. It's close to bedtime just because I want to. And so if you have some controls in place, ideally 8 to 10 hours is going to be the best. So it would be like 8 a.m. to 6, and then as you get better, 8 to 4. If you really want to constrict some, increase some autophagy, then you can go to 6 hours and really tighten that window for a day or so.
Perfect.
Anything to add to that?
The only thing I would add is I don't know how many of you are looking to get more shredded, and get some weight off, but some of the work that's been done by Sachin Panda, and it's in his book, The Circadian Code, what he discovered is they took these mice, and one group of mice, they fed them the same food, the same calories, but these mice had 24 hours where they could eat the food whenever they wanted. And so these mice were in this grazing pattern. So if you're a grazer, listen up. Or if you know someone who's a grazer, maybe you just slide this little thing in their inbox and hope that they watch it. But if you're a grazer, then what they found is these mice would just come and eat, and then they'd take little naps, and then maybe they'd play on the toys there, and then they would sleep and nap and snack, and they were eating 24 hours. And so he took mice, and these mice that had 24 hours to eat became obese mice. And then they took another group, and they just gave them an 8-hour window when these mice could eat. And what they discovered is these mice that only had 8 hours compressed time when they could eat, these mice actually took on signs of fit, healthy, and more robust mice. The mice that were obese, when they put them in the 8-hour feeding window, these obese mice shrunk, and they lost 30% more weight, 30% more fat than the mice who just had the 24-hour cycle. And then for those of you who are athletes, they've also done studies where they've shrunk the window down to anywhere below 9 hours. So if you go like 9, even if you break it down to like 6 hours, that is a great way to get better endurance. And so fasting actually increases endurance. And then the other interesting thing is if you want to burn fat more efficiently, then get on this diet, because not only will your body start utilizing its own cells, so that's the autophagy that Cade mentioned, but your body will also get in this ketogenic state. So you'll start utilizing fat to metabolize, which once again, that helps support the stem cell health in your intestines. So if you have any digestive issues, one of the quickest ways you can heal them is just on time restricted eating. I can't tell you how many patients we've just solved their problems by these simple fasting. And if you think about fasting, it's not like it's new. We've been doing this in every single religious culture you can look at, in every spiritual tradition, in Buddhism and Christianity and in Islamic faiths and Judaism, all these major religions around the world, even though they disagree on so many different things, they do all agree that fasting is a spiritual process. It's a cleansing process. And so very easy to just put fasting in your life every single day. So once again, if you want to exercise lots of willpower, if I'm like Cade, at night, it's like, all right, well, it would be really nice to munch on some chips. I'm like a chip junkie. All the books I've written, I probably consume like 3 bags of chips per page. So that will give you guys something to think about as you're reading it. But
as you're telling people not to eat chips.
This is in the day. This is in my eating cycle, though. But at night, when you're like, let's hang out, and and you're just munching on something. But the work from Sachin Panda, he found that the people actually, about 50% of Americans consume more calories after dinner than they do for dinner itself. And so it's very easy for me to just say, okay, at 7 o'clock, like last night, my son is like, hey, you want to share this muffin? My wife made these cool bulletproof kind of ketogenic muffins. And I was like, nope, my window's shut. And so, it doesn't require any willpower because I made the choice once. And so, so make it somehow, whether that's 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 7 works really good for me. I like to compress it down. If you're looking to lose weight, then practice the 5-2 method. And the 5-2 method is where you have 5 days where you're eating this 8 to 9 hour window. And then 2 days out of the week, usually on a weekend, it's easier. You compress that window to like 5 to 6 hours, and you limit the amount of calories that you're eating. and then you'll burn weight. The weight will just fly off your body. You don't need to do any crazy dieting or anything like that. Just compress that window to 5 to 6 hours, where maybe you're eating a couple of meals, but you're not getting quite the calorie consumption in, and you'll feel like a champion. Okay, so here's some schedules. You can fast from 7 to 11 and then eat from 12 to 6. Or, some people like, they're fasting, then you go fasting 6 to 11, you sleep 11 to 7, get your 8 hours of sleep. And this is, kind of a recommended schedule for those of you who, feel this is good. I actually wake up closer to 5 o'clock. And so I would just push this all forward. And this would be a great schedule for a weekend for me when I'm trying to do that 5 and 2 methodology. Then I would just, eat maybe 12 to 6 and then be done. And that works out really well on Saturdays and Sundays. My work days, I typically like to eat 9 to about 7 is pretty typical, 9 to 6, 9 to 7. So that's your time restricted eating. Very simple. All right. You ready for number 2 on this does not require any willpower. It just requires a turn of a faucet. Now, those of you who live in the southern regions like you, Cade, it's been cold there. Did your water actually get cold or with the snow?
Yeah, I would say it's a little colder than usual.
Okay, good. Yeah, when I take a cold shower at Cade's, I'm just like waiting. I'm like, is it going to cool off? But he lives in St. George. I'm up here in Park City. And so much different environment as far as how cold is your cold. But here's some benefits. So cold shower, just go in there, take a warm shower, enjoy it, get it really hot, get your body hot, get it steamed up. And then at the end of your shower, try and do it for 2 minutes, just turn it to cold. And then as you're in there cold, you're going to be moving your body, but make sure that the cold water is hitting your chest and hitting especially between your scapulas, because between the scapulas, that's where your fat metabolism is all regulated. And so your white fat needs to become beige fat, and that's when it becomes metabolically active. And when it's metabolically active, once again, we know it helps your stem cells, but it also is easier to burn, because when it becomes beige, that's where the mitochondria migrate from the center of that fat, where the metabolically inactive fat, where it just is like in lazy mode, it's white fat, because the mitochondria are all condensed in the middle, and they're just like, well, let's not go to work today. Let's just hang out and we'll play hacky sack. But once you put some cold on it, that hacky sack just gets obliterated and everyone goes back to work. So they're ready to actually perform some functions. So here's what it looks.
I like that analogy.
You like the hacky sack analogy? Because at school, I don't know how it was for you guys, but we had like the group of people who just would like play hacky sack. And I'm like, did you not hear the bell just rang? Like, you guys just going to play hacky sack? So anyway, that's where it came from. So I got nothing against hacky sack players, by the way. But I thought it was a good analogy. All right, so here's what happens to the microbiota. So in your body, you've got a second brain. And that second brain that orchestrates far more than what we realize right now is the bacteria in your gut. And for thousands of years, we've always talked about the second brain. In Chinese medicine, all they called the brain was the sea of marrow. It really, it's got some functionality, but your brain is not where your thoughts come from. It's not even where we store the emotions. These emotions are stored in our gut. They're stored in our liver, our kidneys, our heart. But what you'll find is when you have this cold exposure, it actually helps improve the bacteria in your gut. So it's like a way of increasing your second brain. Or maybe it's even our smarter brain, which is the bacteria in your gut. And then what that does is it makes you more insulin sensitive. So it gives you this nice rush of energy. And then you can utilize, when you have insulin sensitivity, that means you can utilize any energy storage in your body, carbohydrates and proteins, much more effectively. And then it increases thermogenesis. And so when you have thermogenesis going on, that means you're going to metabolize fats, or any energy in your body is going to be created much quicker. So ironically, I did not like cold for a long time. After I lived in Hawaii for 4 years, when I came back from Hawaii, I was like, man, Utah is so cold. And then it wasn't until I started taking cold showers about 4 or 5 years ago, I heard Tim Ferriss talk about it. And I'm like, I'll try it. And I was like, oh man, I start to tolerate cold so much better. I actually really enjoy my nice cold weather. It's been in the 40s here at Park City in the day, and I'm like, got my windows down, my sunroof's open. My daughter gets in the car. She's like, Dad, it's freezing. I'm like, yeah, it feels good. And so you can do that. Even though I had Hashimoto's, I had a thyroid condition that did not help me produce heat very well. So the other thing that you're going to find is that if you can have the diversity of these critters in your gut, you're going to have a much better cellular expression. They make the hormones, they make your neurotransmitters, they do so much for you. And all it takes is that one choice. Once again, this is about willpower, and I'm like, willpower doesn't work. Read the book. Benjamin Hardy wrote the book, Willpower Doesn't Work. I dare you to read it. It's so good. You got to create the environment where you can actually have these healthy habits. And so one of the best ways is, number one, the fasting. Put yourself on a time-restricted eating diet. Maybe do a 24-hour fast once a month or once every 3 months, whatever you're comfortable with. And then take some cold showers, because it's going to boost your immune system. It increases awareness and alertness. It prevents colds. It stimulates antidepressant hormones. It accelerates your metabolism. It reduces anxiety, reduces swelling. It can alleviate migraines, lowers body tension, and it relaxes the muscles. Now, I remember at one of my teaching events, I was so stressed. This was about 4 years ago. And I was at Boston, and it was right after the Boston Marathon bombing. Was that 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something, but something like that. And I was so stressed because, there's all these acupuncturists, doctors, and they'd been through so much, and they still made it to that event that weekend, which was shocking. And I remember I just felt like, man, I don't know if, teaching this content is going to be the best timing. We went through it, and I tried to be as compassionate as possible. But at lunch, I told everyone, I said, look, I can't eat lunch with you. I went to my room, and I took a cold shower. And I came back in the afternoon, and I felt like a new man. So if you're having a crappy day, if your day's already started out crappy, I promise you, if you go take a cold shower right now, you'll come out of that cold shower, and you'll feel much better. Partially, you'll feel better because you just alleviated the pain of the cold shower, but you'll also feel all the metabolic benefits of it. So this is the face I make when I walk out from a cold shower, but 2 to 3 minutes is all it takes. So get after it. Any final words, Cade, before we end with everyone?
No, I think that was awesome. I don't have anything to add other than get your cold shower in. It is, I think, yeah, that's where willpower does come into a little bit, because that flip of the knob, it is intimidating. But if you just do it and muscle through it for that initial shock, then you kind of get numb, and it actually feels really tingly and just feels awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love taking cold showers.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, the Willpower book, that was by Ben Hardy, right?
Benjamin Hardy, yep.
Doesn't work.
Yep, get that book. It's so good. Yep, Willpower Doesn't Work. It's one of my favorite books of last year. It was my top 3. All right, everybody. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
All right, we'll see you guys.